Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my diary entry for the week of June 12th through 18th. It is Saturday, June 18th, and I've got quite a bit to share with you today. I've got some reading, some knitting, some movie watching, and then just some general life stuff, I guess, at the end. So, as always, we'll start off with what I've read since I talked to you last, and then we'll get into what I am currently reading. So what I finished this week, first off, was Percy Jackson and the Olympians. This is the last one, the last Olympian. My family and I have been doing a reread of this, and I really enjoyed this. I ended up listening to most of it off of audiobook. I had never listened to the audiobooks before, but I really enjoyed the narrator, and so experiencing this series in a different way was very interesting, and I just really enjoyed this installment. I didn't remember a lot of this last one either, which is odd because, like I said before, I didn't remember a lot from Titan's Curse, but I didn't enjoy that installment as much as the rest. I would say even now that I've finished the series, the Titan's Curse is probably my least favorite of the 5. But there were bits and pieces in this installment that I did remember. And I just really enjoyed it. This one has a lot of action in it because there's a lot of battle and fighting and things like that. And yeah, so I'm glad to have finally finished this one and we can start in on the Lost Hero. But with the way things are going for this month, I think we're going to be held up by me, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get a start on the Lost Hero yet. But really enjoyed this reread. Can't wait to get started onto the Heroes of Olympus, because I've never experienced that series, and so it'll be something new and exciting. And so yes, really enjoyed that one. One completed series for me this year, or another one. Which, can I count that as a completed series? Because it was a reread. I think it's been about 10 years since I've read that, though, so maybe? Next up, I finally finished Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. This is the first book in the Miss Peregrines series. I can't even remember what the series is called. I was supposed to look it up, and I forgot. I'm sure you all know what this one's about. This, again, was a reread for me. I had first read this one when I had been really new to BookTube. It was really early in my BookTube, journey, and I think this one was really popular when I had read it. And if you know me, you know I don't like to jump on hype trains, but you know, as we all do when we're in BookTube, we jump on hype trains. And I was convinced, or I had convinced myself that I had enjoyed this one to the level where I gave it 5 stars. I had listened to it entirely on audiobook back then, so I didn't have the experience of all of the pictures that the physical copy gives you. So it would explain to you things that it was telling you, but you see, this book has these pictures, and these pictures correlate to things that you're being told in the story. And I really think that that adds some dimension of enhancement to the consumption of this story. And it's something that I was missing when I had read it the first time. See, there's even this little thing here that, again, corresponds to something you're being told in the story. And I really enjoyed having these on my reread of this. So I did read this one physically, completely, from cover to cover. There were times where I was tempted to borrow myself a copy of the audiobook because this one was slow going for me. I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that at the beginning of this book, there's a lot of doubt about the things that the grandfather character has told over the years about his past. And then when all of that stuff comes to fruition and is validated, that's like the point where the story kind of takes off for me. But it was really hard for me to get through all of that doubt and just bad vibe feelings from the beginning of the story. Yeah, there was a lot from the beginning of the story that I didn't remember. Like about our main character just going through his daily life and the fact that he had a job. I didn't remember any of that. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed this reread, but I definitely bumped my rating down. I would say this is like a 3.5, maybe a 4. I think it does have rereadability, but, and obviously I did reread it because I want to get further into the series and see what happens. When I had read this, the rest of the installments weren't even out, I don't think. And so, yeah, I definitely had to reread this one because it's been a while. But this is definitely not a 5-star read for me. Definitely not. I would say 3.5, maybe a 4, like I said. But yeah, it was interesting. We're probably going to be watching the movie sometime to see, so that I can compare between the book and the movie. Because when the movie came out, I hadn't reread the book. And so this is actually my first reread of it. Things are still pretty fresh. I remembered quite a bit from when he gets the validation of things that had happened to his grandfather through to the end. What was funny is that there are things in this story that are called hollows, and I'm doing a read and watch along of Bleach, the manga series by Tite Kubo, with my daughter. And there are monsters in that series that are called hollows. And the very first time I had the name hollow attached to something was when I'd watched the anime for Bleach the very first time. And so anytime the word hollow comes up in regards to a monster, that's the type of hollow I'm thinking of. And so when we get them in here, that's kind of what I'm seeing. And so it's kind of funny. Even though they're described differently, I'm still, like, in my head seeing the hollows from Bleach. So it's a little bit hilarious. But I enjoyed my reread of this. Looking forward to continuing. Hopefully I'll do that sometime in the near future, so I don't need to reread that one. So that was a carryover from May, I think. And I should probably tell you what I'm using these for. So Percy Jackson will count for the Whateverthon quest or adventure block. Miss Peregrine's Home, even though it was a carryover, I didn't read more than like 20% or so before June started. So I'm counting this for June for the Portal Fantasy block, because I definitely consider that a Portal Fantasy. So next up, I've got 2 volumes for the Manga Pride Readathon, and that is volumes 1 and 2 of Semelparous. This one is by Jun Ogino, published by 7 Seas, rated older teen. This one is rated older teen, but it does have a parental advisory warning on the back. So there is nudity and sexual content in this series, just so that you know. But this series follows our main character here, who is trained to become a kaiju hunter. So the story starts out where her and her best friend from growing up, they had known each other from when they were little kids. They go through this program together to get to be these bulwarks, they're called, and they're the kaiju hunters. It says soldiers who defend humanity from the kaiju trying to break through. So, again, very much like Bleach. These beings kind of break through into the world, and the way it kind of looks is like the sky is like being cracked open so that these monsters can come and invade. But they go through this program, and her best friend are like the top two. They're like very competitive with each other, but they're best friends. And one day on one of their last kind of training missions, her best friend dies. And she's kind of stopped herself from like caring anymore about other people because that hurt is so fresh for her. But now she's like the best of the best. There's no one who could even come close to these two, and now there's just her. And so she completes the program and ends up going on to become a full-fledged bulwark. And she gets paired up with this woman here, who she kind of had a little bit of a meeting with during that attack where her best friend was killed. This woman comes in and kills the kaiju. And so this series, or these 2 volumes, follow our character here going through the program, teaming up with this woman, and then learning about the kaijus. And there's something in her like family background that's a little bit mysterious as well. So I think that's pretty much all I can say without giving things away, but there's definitely some very interesting things in this story. Again, there's a correlation with Bleach for me, because the kaiju in this story look like the hollows from Bleach. I don't know why. For some reason, I thought the kaiju would look more like, like Godzilla type creatures, or, other types of monsters, not what the hollows from Bleach look like. So yeah, I enjoyed the story. Like I said, it's got some very interesting things in it, but the way these women are drawn is rather irritating to me. Like, their chest looks like it was like pasted on. Just the way it's drawn, it just looks ridiculous. And they're like super huge. These women, all of them, have super huge chests. And I don't know. I don't enjoy that. And it definitely feels like they're drawn from a male gaze, if you know what I mean. I don't enjoy that either. But I'm intrigued enough with what's going on currently in the story that I will pick it up volume by volume and then reassess after each volume. I definitely don't enjoy how these women are drawn. You can even see, like, maybe in this picture, that's kind of a toned down look, but yeah, you won't be able to see because it's rather tiny, but her chest is rather ridiculous. And so, yeah, I don't enjoy that. This first volume had some full body nudity, but no sexual content. This volume had sexual content, and I could do without it. I don't feel like any of that gave to the story. And I feel like the back of the first volume, is kind of misleading. Like, this is a Yuri series. It's girls love, so we're going to have female-female relationships. And it kind of makes you feel, at least the summary, to me, on the back of this volume makes it feel like she had a romantic relationship with her best friend. And that's not the feeling that I got when I read this one. So I don't know if they like just meant that she wouldn't be able to like open herself up to any other types of even like platonic relationships to anybody else, or if they really meant that she had a romantic relationship with her best friend. Like I said, it wasn't portrayed, at least not for me, in this first volume. Maybe they'll fill in some backstory later, but yeah, I definitely didn't get that feeling. But there's definitely a feeling that she's going to get involved in a female-female relationship by volume 2. What's interesting about this is that in the middle of these volumes, there are character like profiles. So like about a quarter into the first volume, you get your first character profile. And that's of our main character. And it just gives you her name, age, birth date, height, blood type, favorite food. But we're also getting, as the volume goes by, character profiles of people who have been introduced in the story, who by the time we get the character profile have already been killed. So I don't know what that means or why we're getting that info. It just feels a little strange the way that those character profiles are coming up after they've already been killed in the story. So I'm wondering if maybe that's a sign that something is like forthcoming with those characters or things like that. But yeah, I thought these were interesting. I read both of these in one night. There is a mystery element in it, so that's kind of keeping me going, but I'm not enjoying those illustrations of the women's chests. So, yeah, definitely interesting. Lots of kind of battle scenes, and the battle scenes are nice and clear. I don't feel like I'm getting overwhelmed with the action that's being depicted on the scene, which is nice, because sometimes when there's battle scenes, it's a little hard to depict or decipher what is going on in those battle scenes. But I'm definitely very clear on the types of attacks that are being done and things like that. So that's real nice. So I did enjoy what I read so far, and I'll be interested to see what the next volume contains. And like I said, this is going to be a series where I will reassess whether or not I will continue going after each volume. So far so good. I'll definitely be picking up the next volume and see what I think after that. The last thing that I finished this week was I Want to Be a Wall. This one's by Honami Shirono, published by Yen Press, rated older teen. This one is one of the Monochrome Manga Club series reads for June, and so the meeting is this coming Thursday, the 23rd, so it should be the day after you see this video. So I'm not going to be talking about this one in this video because I will have a series first impressions video like I always do on the Monochrome Manga Club selections at the end of the month, and so look forward to that. But that's everything that I finished this week. So I got through quite a bit. Semelparous will count for, like I said, Manga Pride Readathon, because it's girls' love. And then I Want to Be a Wall also counts for Manga Pride, actually, because it's depicting a marriage between a gay man and an asexual woman. And so I'm really, really happy with all of the things that I've read this week. That's quite a few things that I finished this week. So it was quite a good reading week, I would say, considering the amount of finishes that I have. As far as what I'm currently reading, I started The Last Fallen Star, which is by Gracie Kim. This is for my Rotating Decks TBR game as my mom's pick, I believe. I barely scratched the surface on that one. I read a couple pages into chapter 1. But I just kind of picked it up right after I finished Percy Jackson, and it kind of has the same feel. I don't know if it's just because it's a Rick Riordan's Presents type of book. It is fantasy, so maybe that's what it is, and I just felt like I needed a break, so I read other things. But I'm definitely planning on going back to that this week and reading more into that, because obviously I need to read it for my TBR game. And then I also needed an audiobook because I was working on something that I couldn't actually read and do at the same time. And so I picked up Witch, which is by Ian Rob Wright. I was planning to read this for Horror Mayhem. I borrowed a copy from Kindle Unlimited and never got to it. And so I had the audiobook available to me from Hoopla. And so I decided to go ahead and start that. And that will count for Whateverthon's on a previous TBR block. And that one, it says it's the Cursed Manuscripts series. And as of where I am right now, I am pretty far in. I would say I'm past the 50% mark. I don't see any hints to Cursed Manuscripts. This definitely has a witch in it. We've been introduced to her. But basically these two best friends, they've been best friends for their entire lives. It's a boy and a girl. They're in their teens, and they get bullied really bad by these other kids from their class. So this guy and his two girls, I don't know if they're in a relationship together or if they're just in a friend group, but these three are the worst bullies in the school, to the point where the two main characters don't even want to report them because the repercussions are worse if they report the fact that they're being bullied by these kids. And so sometime within the book, they have a second or third or maybe even fourth. They run into these kids quite a bit at the beginning of the book, run in with these kids, and while running away, they run into this deserted kind of farmhouse, but inside there is a woman that is chained up, and she just looks emaciated, and the chains are actually through her body parts. So it's not like she's got cuffs or anything like that. The chains go through her wrists and her ankles. And they don't know how long she's been there, and there's all kinds of weird symbols around the place. And they basically get freaked out and run away, and they report it to the police when they get back to town. That incident of finding the woman and not of being bullied. They just chalk up their injuries from falling down a mountain, really. But when the police go to where they had reported seeing this woman, they don't see anything. And so the story kind of follows these two teens trying to prove that this woman exists and figure out what the heck is going on. Now, like I said, this is the Cursed Manuscript series, and as far as I have no mention of any kind of cursed manuscript. There is an item that could possibly be considered cursed that has come into the picture, but it's not a manuscript. So I'm a little confused with the title of this book, considering how far in I am, that it hasn't been mentioned. If you look at the cover, which I have here for you, you can kind of see what I mean about the woman being chained. This is kind of how she's depicted in the story. So it's pretty interesting, but again, I'm very confused about that whole cursed manuscript reference, and there is a lot of swearing. They use a lot of swear words in this one, which it doesn't really bother me because they're like teens and they just have dirty mouths. So it's also because I've listened to a good portion of it on audiobook, they're using some kind of accent. It's like, I don't know, some kind of European accent. I don't know which one, to be honest, and I don't know where the story takes place. I just reread the summary that's on Goodreads for this book, and none of what the summary says for this book applies to what I've consumed so far. So yeah, I'm pretty confused, but I'm still interested in what happens in this story and to see how this one's all going to wrap up, because it is a pretty short book. It's only 195 pages, and yeah, so still really interesting. I'm not really feeling that horror vibe yet, and I think it's just because things have just started to happen. So I feel like it's definitely going to pick up on those horror vibes the further I get into the book. And I believe this one also has a sequel. So I'm interested to see what I think the further I get into this one. But those are the two things that I am currently reading. This weekend, I'm going to focus mostly on the Monochrome Manga Club selections because, like I said, I have the meeting on Thursday. So I definitely need to get all of that read so that I can discuss it with the group on Thursday. But that's pretty much where my reading is so far. I do have some knitting to share with you. So I have been on a roll and I have finished another pair of socks. So this is my independence socks. I started these last year and I had this sock finished last year. So this is just a self-striping yarn, and I'll give you the details on the yarn when I'm done. So when I picked this one up, I was actually here. So I had done one full sock and this whenever I had stopped knitting, and it had to be around this time last year because I had started these in May of last year thinking that I'd have the pair done to wear for 4th of July, and that just didn't happen. So I had picked it up here, and I actually took this to the graduation. So my daughter graduated from college on Sunday, and the graduation was long, and I knew I would need something to do while I was sitting there. And so I took this one because it basically was just round and round and round, and I worked this on a 9-inch circular needle. And so this is where I had started, and when the graduation was done, this is where I ended. This is an afterthought heel, so I was just knitting this tube section. And so that was Sunday, and then I finished the rest of the sock a couple days ago. And so I'm doing really good on this. So what I didn't remember was the fact that on this sock, or not this sock, this was the one that I had done last year. This one I had done the Instathought heel. So Roxanne Richardson had a tutorial on her channel about how to do an afterthought heel, not afterthought. So it's basically an afterthought heel, but you work it the same way that you would like when you get to it in a regular knitting, and you would say put in a heel flap and gusset. So she has a technique to do it, and that's how I did this one. And so this actual heel is the umbrella heel from Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. So I had done that one, this sock, in the Instathought heel technique. And for the toe, I just used my lightning toe. This is a toe technique that I came up with when I had come up with my licorice socks pattern, which I haven't actually released yet. I just need to write it down, and I just haven't had the brain capacity to do so, but I'm hoping to get that done sometime this year. But anyway, I did my lightning toe. So for this one, I had forgotten, because of course it's been a year, and so I actually did this one in a traditional afterthought heel fashion. So I actually cut into the tube here after I had finished the toe and worked the heel. So they don't really look any different. I mean, if anything, my gauge has changed. You can kind of see this one's a little bit more baggy than this one, but they both fit good. I don't have a problem. So you can see more of the bagginess up here. But yeah, I think they look great. So I have a pair of socks to wear for 4th of July this year, but don't know that I actually will be wearing them, because I think we're just going to stay home. But yeah, I'm really happy with these. So the yarn that I used, this is the bag that I had it in. It is my Charlie Brown bag from Utterly Adorable Knits. So the self-striping was a Cascade Heritage Prints. This is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And it's in the color number 52. I have a feeling that the colorway is actually called Independence, and that's why I have named it my Independent Socks. But I really love this yarn. It's nice and squishy. It was really nice to work with, and the feel is really plump, and you get a little piece over here that actually shows you what the yarn would look like knit up. So I really enjoyed that. And then for the heel, I just used a leftover skein of ice yarns. This is made in Turkey. 75% superwash wool, 25% polyamide, and this is just in their solid sock. So I've actually used this skein for quite a bit of heels and toes. And when I bought from Ice Yarns a couple years ago, I think, I bought packs of like 8 because it was so cheap. And so I've been really happy with that purchase so far, and it's been really useful. So this is my completed pair of socks, and this one is for me. I am going to be working up a pair for my daughter, because she said she wanted a pair out of the yarn, and obviously I have quite a bit left, so I'll definitely be getting to work on that for her sometime soon. But in the meantime, when I finished that one, I decided to go ahead and pick up another languishing whip. So I've got it in this bag that I got off of Etsy. It's Sleeping Beauty. This is my mom's sock bag. So whenever I have a project for my mom, this is the bag that I use. And these are supposed to be her Christmas socks. Obviously, they never made it to Christmas. So I have one completed sock here, so I can show you what it's supposed to look like. So this is the sock that I had completed, and this is Jemima from Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. So I just did a normal 15 row 2x2 rib with the Jemima, and then a heel flap and gusset and the umbrella toe. So this is what the completed sock will look like. Where I am with the sock that I am currently on for her is here. So when I had picked this one back up, and I forgot to put a marker, but I was like up here. I only had a few rows of ribbing. So I've done all of this since. So far, so good. You can see I do mark my sole stitches so that I know about how far I need to go. So I'm almost done. I've got about 20 more rows on the foot and then the toe, and then these will be done as well. So I am doing really well with my knitting so far. The yarn I'm using is a Mally Socks yarn in, I can't even say that, it's from Ferner Wool, and this colorway is 24/12/20, so it's Christmas Eve 2020, and this is made in Austria. 75% superwash wool, 25% polyamide, and you can see I have a very, very floppy skein. This skein is 450 meters, so 150 grams. I have made myself a pair of socks in this, and now I'm making my mom a pair, and then I should have enough to make my daughter a pair, I think. We'll have to see. I might need to stripe it, but this one has some interesting stripes. As far as the yarn goes, you can kind of see it on the bottom here of the completed sock. It's got like a kind of fade into the solid. It's really, really interesting. But yeah. So I should have another pair of completed socks for you, hopefully by the time I do my next Disis19 Diaries. So I wouldn't say that my knitting mojo is back just yet, but I am feeling like the motivation to finish up some projects. So I'll take it. I will take it because it's been a while since I've had any urge to knit at all. But for the heels, toes, and cuffs, or the toes and heels, I should say, I'm using Knit Pick Stroll Fingering in the Aurora Heather colorway, and I just love this color. It's one of my absolute favorite colors from Knit Picks, and so I thought it went really well with this yarn. And yeah, I used Evergreen, I think, Knit Picks Evergreen for the socks that I did for myself in this color, and it's really, really bright. At least I'm pretty sure I did Evergreen. I'm gonna have to go pull out my socks and see. But yeah, I much prefer this darker green color. But yeah, so that completes everything I've knit on so far. Now let's get into some movie watching. Actually, we'll do TV watching first. So I've been watching the Honami Dango TV series. I think I told you last week I was on the first season. So we finished up the first season. We watched the second season, finished that. Really, really enjoyed the Japanese drama. I would say Domyoji is like the depiction of the worst boyfriend ever until he realizes how much Makino means to him. Which I feel is very different from the Korean drama adaptation. But we'll get into that a little later. So we finished up Hanayori Dango 2, and then we went into the Hanayori Dango final movie and watched that. And I really enjoyed that as well. I didn't remember hardly anything that happened in that movie. And so it was really, really nice to see it again. And that movie has one of the best endings ever. I think my gripe with a lot of Korean dramas or adaptations, Asian adaptations in general, is that you're kind of left in the lurch as far as a sense of completion to a story. A lot of times they like to leave it where you kind of can think about what happens at the end of where they left off the series and work out the end yourself. And I hate that. I wish they would just go through to completion and give us an ending, because a lot of times it's just left up in the air and you don't know. Especially with some series where you're not quite sure, is it going to be a happy ending or is it going to be a sad one? I don't know. I wish they would just give us one and then let us decide whether or not that's the ending that we would like to see for the characters, you know what I mean? But with this particular movie, I feel like it gave us the best ending. And I felt so complete after watching it. I feel a sense of completion with the series. And that, you know, everything was nicely wrapped up. So I really enjoyed that. And it was the first time my mom has watched the movie, because when my daughter and I had watched it before, she either was working or wasn't interested or something like that. But yeah, we really enjoyed that. And so after discussing what we would watch next, we decided that we were going to jump right into the Korean drama adaptation, Boys Over Flowers. So this is the same story. So it's based on the same manga, but it's a Korean adaptation. So there are a lot of differences in the Korean adaptation. And like I told you before, the Korean adaptation of the series was my very first Korean drama, and I've watched it several times. So I do remember quite a bit from it. But as we're watching it, I'm finding that there are a lot of things that I forgot. There are a lot of things that are very similar. The Korean drama adaptation is longer. So there is a little bit of extra content with our characters, which is nice. I would say there's a very big difference between the main characters, or the Domyoji character, the main male character, between the Japanese and the Korean drama adaptations. I'm going to say this, and I think my friend Lee is going to be very disappointed. Lee Mack. I'll link her down in the description box below. But we had initially bonded over her crochet projects, her portrait panels, and Korean dramas. At least I'm pretty sure that's how we first started talking. And she is a big fan of Lee Min-ho, and he's the one that plays the Domyoji character in the Korean drama adaptation. And I'm not so much of a fan. I don't know what it is about Lee Min-ho, but it takes me a while to really get into him as a character in anything I've watched him in. I do enjoy seeing the dramas he's been in, and I've seen quite a few, but it takes me a long time to get into him, and I don't know what that is. But yeah, Lee much enjoys Lee Min-ho as an actor, and for me, it really takes a lot of time for me to warm up to him. But I would say that the Korean drama adaptation definitely puts the Domyoji character into a better light. I feel like we get more of a feeling of how important the female main character is to him in the Korean drama adaptation than we do in the Japanese drama adaptation. I do enjoy both, and I really recommend both. I don't know which one I like better. I definitely like the music in both also, so that's what makes it very difficult too, because music plays a lot into my enjoyment of things, and it helps it become memorable for me. But I do enjoy both. I couldn't choose between one or the other, I don't think. I think I prefer the look of Domyoji in Hanayori Dango, though. But that's just me, because it takes a lot for me to get used to Lee Min-ho. And like I said, I don't know what it is. A lot of people love him, but I need to warm up. So anyway, we are about 11 episodes in to Boys Over Flowers now. And it's a 25 episode series. So we're almost halfway, and I'm really enjoying my rewatch. So that's what we have been watching. We finished Kung Fu from the CW. That was really good. Don't know if that one's being picked up for renewal. I hope so, because we really enjoyed that one. So all of the TV shows that we watch are done, at least for right now. And so yesterday, my daughter had a real want to watch Jurassic Park, the very first movie in the franchise. And so we went ahead and watched it. And I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I think that one will also count for my friend Lee, who I just mentioned. Her Rolls and Reels TBW game for an Academy Award winning movie. Because it did win an Academy Award for sound effects or sound tech, a couple things. So got another one for her TBW movie, so I'm doing pretty good with that. I'd had an adaptation with Inferno. I had 2 80s movies, which I haven't even mentioned to you yet. So we watched Rad, which is one of my brother's favorite 80s movies. This one is about like BMX type biking. And I hadn't seen it in so long. And so we have watched that. My daughter watched it for the first time, and she thought it was interesting. So we watched that. And then the other 80s movie we watched was The Wizard, which has Fred Savage in it. That one is about these 2 boys. One of them is Fred Savage, and his younger brother has some kind of autism, I think. They don't really say. So I'm not sure. But he ends up getting put into some kind of home because his stepmom can't take care of the kid. And by this time, his dad and his stepmom have divorced. And his stepmom has married someone else, and they just can't take care of his half-brother, and so they put him into a home. And so Fred Savage's character is like, no, that's wrong, and so he like jailbreaks him from the home. And the younger brother is constantly saying California. He constantly wants to go out to California. He constantly like runs away, gets out of the house, and starts just walking, trying to get to California. And so Fred Savage is like, okay, let's go to California. They don't know why he wants to go to California, but just needs to get away. And so they start on this road trip to California. And on the trip, they find out that the younger brother is like this genius when it comes to video games. He could pick up a video game and never have played it before, and he just gets to like super high scores and things like that. And so he ends up picking up this nickname, the Wizard. And so they kind of meet this girl on their travels, and they all head out towards California and find out there's this like video game competition where they could win money. And Fred Savage and his dad and his older brother, who's Beau Bridges is the dad, Christian Slater is the older brother, and so they have like their own like business, and money's tight and stuff. So they think that if the brother has a shot at winning this tournament, that would like help things. And so they start heading towards this video game competition, and it's really interesting because it's a lot of Nintendo games. So you see a lot of like Super Mario Brothers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I think a game recently got released, like Slasher's Revenge. Is that the old one that was out in the arcade? I don't know. It kind of looks familiar. But I was terrible at playing arcade games. The only arcade game I remember ever playing with my brother and my sister was the X-Men game. And we would just play that all the time, the three of us together. And so, yeah. I don't remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game that was out when I was younger, but it looks very similar to the one that's out currently on Switch. But anyway, the one that they play in the Wizard movie looks like the one that we used to play when we were kids. And so, yeah, it was really fun. They toot Super Mario Brothers 3 as a brand new game at the end of the movie. And, yeah, it's just got a lot of nostalgia for me, that movie. And it was really, really fun. And there's an iconic line in that movie. And it's just like, when I see that movie, it's that line that I hear. And so, yes, a really, really good time. So, like I said, doing really good with Lee's to-be-watched game, Inferno for the adaptation, Rad and the Wizard for 80s movies, and now I've got an Academy Award movie in Jurassic Park. Maybe we'll get in at least one more 80s movie before the month is over. I don't know. But, yeah. So, that's everything I've watched, everything I've knitted on, everything I've read. And then as far as the graduation goes, graduation was good. Dad actually didn't make it to the ceremony. His wife caught the big C, you know, the thing that's going around that nobody wants to get. I'm not going to say it because I don't want this video to be flagged, but I'm sure you know what I mean. She got it. She tested positive. And so my dad was exposed. And so they could not come. This was like the morning of the graduation. So I kind of went through a roller coaster of emotions that morning because I was really, really upset when I first heard. You know that my dad and I kind of have a rocky relationship by now. But the first emotion that I felt was anger. Because I just knew something like this was going to happen. It's just the way things go. Especially with the amount of traveling they were doing beforehand. It was inevitable. At least in my eyes, it was inevitable. And I just feel like that opened them up to being more vulnerable. And so, yeah, the first emotion I felt was anger. And it took me several hours to calm myself down. But I did finally get there to where I was able to call my father and figure out exactly what was going on and see how his wife was doing. Thankfully, she didn't get it too bad. So, yeah, it was very disappointing. Like I said, I was angry for a while. I would say that I'm still rather bothered by it. But what can be done? I mean, nothing could be done about it. It just happened, and he did watch the ceremony because it was streamed live. And I know he watched because he sent me screenshots, which I kind of felt like, you know, was his validation for me that he did actually watch the ceremony online. But it was still, yeah. I'm not going to say that I'm not upset. I'm disappointed. But it is what it is. My daughter was fine with it. And so I guess that's all that matters, right? So, yeah. Other than that, graduation went great. I was able to not get charred. I actually got some UV sleeves. So I wore those when the sun was still out. because it did set while the ceremony was going on, and so when the sun set, I did take them off. But I do feel like that helped me from not getting burnt. So that was great. I was very, very scared that I was going to come out with a bad sunburn because, like I said, the sun doesn't like me. But I was very fortunate that day, and things other than that went very well. And so the very next day, my daughter received her diploma in the mail, and that was exciting too. And yeah, so it's been an eventful week. I've gotten quite a lot done. I've got quite a lot read. And so there's a lot to be proud of and to be thankful of. And yeah, so it's a long one this time. I had a lot to talk to you about. But yeah, maybe I'll take you along with me to the Manga Club meeting next week. And we'll do some manga shopping. I actually haven't gotten any of the manga that I ordered yet this month, so that's a bit concerning considering how late it is already in the month, but we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got for you this week. So let me know down in the comments below if you've done anything fun and exciting recently. What was your best book that you've read this week, or your worst? Or have you watched anything fun and exciting recently? I'd love to know down in the comments below. If nothing else, you would just like to let me know that you are here. If you could leave me a graduation cap emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out, and that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.